Chris Wiesinger with the Southern Bulb Company, known as the Bulb Hunter, and I'm here today at the Arbor Gate in Tomball, Texas. We're going to be giving a talk on flower bulbs. I'm doing this with Dr. Bill Welch. Quick tip on flower bulbs. Here we are in March. It's springtime, and you're probably thinking, do I plant bulbs now? I thought I plant bulbs in the fall. Well, you plant bulbs in the fall for sure, but you also plant bulbs in the spring and in the summer. It's a different kind of bulb, especially when you get into these warmer climates like Tomball. That's just north of Houston, Texas. It stays very, very warm. We do get freezes down here, but that allows us, this warmth, especially in the summertime, and the milder winters allows us to plant a lot of subtropical or semi-tropical bulbs, and we do that in the springtime for summer blooms. An example of that is this crinum right here. Crinums get to be very big. This is a bulb you plant now, and it blooms in the summertime. The foliage will get cleaned up, and you can trim it up, and it'll have a flower stalk about this tall from the bulb. This one right here looks like the milk and wine lily, Crinum herbertii. So it's going to be trumpet-shaped, white blooms with pink, solid pink stripes going down them. It'll bloom about 3 times, April, May, and June, somewhere in there. In case you're curious, when you plant the right bulbs in the right environments, you get babies. So really, you only need to plant some of these bulbs once, and you'll have all that you need. So here's one breaking off right here. Now, what about the bulbs that we planted in the fall? Well, you might see daffodils blooming now, or jonquils, or campanelles. Those are bulbs you're really supposed to plant in the fall. And if you did so, you'll get some blooms. And I'm going to do a big no-no here at the Arbor Gate. I'm going to cut a flower. These were planted as single bulbs, and this is a narcissus called Golden Dawn. Has a great fragrance. I'm just going to hold it really steady there. And this year, for some reason, they're blooming a little bit down in their foliage. Generally, they'll extend their flower stalks and bloom above their foliage. This has some narcissus blood in it, some tazetta blood. That might not mean a whole lot to you, but it does mean that you're going to get a return narcissus here in Tomball, just north of Houston, with a great fragrance. Now, I want to walk us down a path, and we're going to look at another bulb that you'd plant in the fall, and it blooms in the spring. A lot of y'all know about iris. A lot of the nation can grow iris. We think about Louisiana iris a lot, where it grow in the water. But in the cemeteries across Texas and the south, we also have a white blooming iris. Generally, you want to plant it in the fall. It'll grow winter, spring, and it blooms right now. So we're going to walk over here, and it's called the cemetery white iris, Iris albicans. And as we're walking, I'll point out a few other things here. This is an established clump of crinum. Now, not all of them make that many babies, but that's what they're going to look like in the wintertime. There's things you can plant with them and around them, so it's not so noticeable. But really, when you've got a lot of color punched in there and you've got some poppies in the background, it doesn't look so bad. And this is going to be a lush clump of foliage here in about 3 more weeks, and it's going to start blooming in the summertime. So there's a seasonality to bulbs that we have to remember. We're going to walk by the rose house here. The Arbor Gate's done a good job of tucking in bulbs here and there. We're looking at some spider lily foliage here. Something that's indicative of spider lily foliage, at least like Chorus radiata, is that little silver stripe that runs down the green flower, or the green leaf. It might not look like right now, but in the fall, when these are blooming, it's spectacular. We call these spider lilies. Some folks call them surprise lilies. Some folks call them naked ladies, but this is the orange corally red one, which we typically call the red spider lily, like Chorus radiata. Live with the foliage. The foliage is going to go dormant in the summertime, and it's going to bloom in the fall. We're getting there, trust me. You're looking at snowflakes here. Now, I think this is pretty even like it is. But we did have a freeze that hurt some of our foliage here. And so sometimes it's 5 times as nice as this. But a snowflake is characterized by its white, bell-shaped blooms and its little green dots right there. Now, I realize by itself it doesn't do a whole lot. But here we are when you can either tuck color in if you buy pansies, or you can have these perennial colors already popping out in early spring when not much else is blooming. let's go past the snowflakes, which are Leucogia mestivum, a nice substitution for northerners who love their snow drops or their snow bells. We can't really get away with that down here in Texas, at least southern Texas. We can do snowflakes. I saw those blooming in Galveston 2 weeks ago. Bev, I'm going to step in here and try not to step on too many of your flowers. And here's the cemetery white iris, Iris albicans. We find this in all the old cemeteries across the South. I have a bulb hunter friend who bulb hunts for a lot of Dutch companies, and he was in Lebanon, and he saw these blooming in a cemetery there, and we were sharing pictures, and I said, well, what do they call that over there in Lebanon? He said the cemetery white iris. So it's funny how some of our bulbs are really across the world and cross-cultural. Now, I saw one other flower in here blooming, Bev, but looks like they've already bloomed out and starting to neglect them. It's much more bright, vibrant normally, kind of a precursor to bluebells. These will spread and fill entire lawns with this really neat little purplish blue, but perhaps this isn't the best example. We'll maybe get a picture dubbed in there so you can see what it looks like. I'm here at the Arbor Gate today. It's March 21st, 2014, giving a talk on flower bulbs with an heirloom gardening with Dr. Bill Welch. We're excited to be here. Here's some of the bulbs that are blooming in the Houston area for you.